They told me, they said, I don't see color. I said, you better see my color. That's what makes us different, and that's what makes us good. That's what makes us wonderful.
I feel guilty that my generation has been so unsuccessful in making things better in that regard.
Hi, welcome back to Gotta Be Me podcast. We're so happy to be here with you again today. We're your hosts. My name is Sophia Benyon, and this is my cousin, Peyton Benyon.
Welcome back to our channel, everybody. If you are new here, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only if you comment, do not comment about that I stole my mom's shoes, because then she'll know. She looks at the comments.
You wear the same size.
It worked out this time.
Those are some sweet shoes.
Yeah.
As you can see, our set is very different, and that is because we are at my grandma's house. Now, this is not Peyton's grandma. This is just my grandma. But the thing is about my grandma is that she thinks almost everybody is her grandchild, and especially Peyton, because growing up, we dragged Peyton with us to her house all the time.
It took me so long to realize I was not required to go to their family function.
We forced her. We said, Peyton, you're coming. And she's like, okay. And so, yeah, I think, so Gigi thinks that Peyton is her grandchild too, and she low-key is. Anyway, so we're at Gigi's house, which is like just my comfort space. Like, I just come here and I just sleep till 11, and then I just get up and Gigi just makes me coffee and eggs and bagels, and I'm just such a bum. And I just relax to the max here. So anyway, we're super happy to be here and super happy to be able to get Gigi on the podcast. So everybody, meet Gigi. You can wave at them.
I can?
She's super nervous, but hopefully we can get her to calm down as we go.
Not my cup of tea.
Well, I almost made such a corny joke, but I didn't.
Thank you.
Gigi, I have a question for you.
Yes.
A first question for you. Who's your favorite grandchild?
Oh. You didn't ask that. How many do I have now?
Let's see. 6, 2, 8.
8. And then a few,
Mm-hmm. A few that you've pulled in here and there and everywhere.
Yes, yeah.
Probably more than
I
a few.
love them all. You were the first.
I was the first.
Firstborn grandchild. And then Camille was my second. So, girls. I just thought, oh, here we go. We're having girls.
We're having girls. And Uncle Alex's first was a girl, too.
And Uncle Alex's, my son Alex, his first was a girl.
I knew you wouldn't say which one's your favorite. I just thought I'd try anyway.
Yeah. Well, that they're all very close, dear to my heart.
We loved it. Gigi spoils us like you would not believe. She spoils people that aren't even her grandchildren. Like, Gigi just spoils everybody.
Yeah.
You
Well,
love
it's fun.
to do that, huh? You love to give gifts and make food and...
Yeah.
Oh, if you need an owl,
If you need an owl,
Gigi can make you an owl.
contact Gigi. Like, we'll have to
We're totally gonna have to show them
drop
an
some
owl.
pictures of the
Yeah,
owls.
we're totally gonna have to show
Gigi,
some owl
custom.
pictures.
Custom-made owls. Do you want to, like, what do you estimate? How many owls do you think you've made?
Well, at different times, there's.
You make them and sell them, like, in a big batch.
I have had requests. One of my people that wanted owls had lost her mom, and she had me make various things with all her mother's clothes.
Old clothes.
A big, huge comforter quilt with all the stuff, and then she still had so many scraps, and she said, "Can we make owls out of these?" And so I think there were, and she wanted for her nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and somewhere I have a picture of them all laying down on a blanket, and then I took a picture, and I think there were close to 30 of them at that.
And that was just at one time? So you've made hundreds because...
I have made a lot of owls. I mean, I didn't plan on
You didn't
this.
plan on... How did you make your first owl?
That's my first owl, my prototype.
The one that's hanging up there?
That I
We'll have
bought
to
in
get a picture of it.
Wisconsin. But I
Navy.
changed it. It didn't have wings, and it didn't have...
So you kind of bought it already made a little bit, and then you
yes.
added to it, and then you started...
And then I thought, okay, I could do this.
I could do
you
this.
know.
They're so cute. We all have our own owls. And she's in the process of making us these other owls that are like, they incorporate all our favorite things. It's really neat. Anyway.
It's
She's
going to be challenging.
You're so crafty.
It's going to
You
be a
just
little
make everything out of
challenging.
everything. Well, Gigi, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you were raised? Like, I know you don't feel that old and you don't act very old, but if you think about it really, like, the 40s is a long time
And I'm, based on a 100-year lifespan, should that happen, You know,
You don't want to live to be 100.
it depends, you know, on your
Your
condition.
mom lived to be 100.
101.
That's crazy.
Depending on that, I'm in the last quarter. You know,
Sure, almost a century.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Time is flying.
You want what was different about growing up in the 50s? Like, I mean, I know a lot of
Then
things,
now?
but like, what's the first thing you think of?
Well, of course, as a child, you just have freedom from care.
Mm-hmm.
So as you get older and you have your own children and grandchildren and everything, you start taking on, I don't know, I hate to use the word worry, but you do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then, which you don't have. You're free of that as children. But we did have, I think, more freedom than children have now.
In what way?
At least in our house. You know, my mother was raised in London, England,
Mm-hmm.
and my father in Wisconsin, and it was like, off you go, and off you went for the day.
Like, just figure it out, kind of.
Off you go and get home before dark, or when you're hungry.
So where did you spend your time? Where would you go when it was off you go? Where did you go off to?
We were children. We played. We had a park right
You just
across
went
the
to
street
park
from our house.
and hung out with your friends.
Yeah. We did a lot of roller skating and biking and swinging.
So a lot more
teeter-tottering and-
outdoor
You
activities.
weren't on the
Everything
screen, for
outside
sure.
all the time. Yeah. We were in the neighborhood.
Cell phones or...
Nothing. No, very little TV.
Did you have a TV?
There's a picture somewhere. I did not prepare for that part of it. But we got our first TV, which my sister and I then stood next to for the picture. It was like...
About how old were you?
I think I was 3.
Okay. And you got your first... Was it big?
No. Well, the console was big, but then there was that little round
A little
thing.
screen?
Yeah.
Was it black and white?
So that was probably in 1951 or something.
I can't... Like, the 50s. Like, what? Was
Then
it
we
black
got
and
one.
white?
It was black and white. Yeah, there wasn't any color at all.
What's a modern convenience that you have now that, like, what's something you would not want to go back to living without?
What is something that I would like to go...
That you would not want to, like going back to the 50s, what's something that you wish you could bring from the 2000s, like a modern convenience?
Back to the 50s. Well, as much as I'm overly dependent on it now, I suppose it's my cell phone.
That you would want to take with
yeah.
you?
You know, I mean, I do like knowing that I can check in with my children or grandchildren and see how they are and give them more warnings ahead of time, a tornado's coming your way and things of that sort. You know, we just really were so much more laid back, and I wouldn't want to exchange that. I wouldn't want to trade that for the anxiety that comes with. I think technology has created anxiety that we didn't experience back
I
then.
think that's very true.
I think.
Very true.
And other things, many other things also. So, yeah, it was a more laid-back time. Not just because I was a child.
But just because of, like, the whole atmosphere and...
Yeah, it was really quite
People were
different.
more living in the moment, their moment, rather than looking at other people's moments on their phone.
Right. You just lived your life.
You and your neighborhood, and that's pretty much who you're going to talk to, right?
Yes. And we didn't have cars.
You all didn't have a car?
We did not have a car until, I think our first car, I might have been almost 9.
Are you serious? So you walked everywhere or biked?
We walked
Did you have public transportation now?
We took buses and we walked.
There was buses.
We walked miles and miles all the time and rode bikes.
That's probably why your mom lived to be 101.
Yes.
All that walking
Yeah.
and exercise.
Well, she always attributes it to her dancing.
Her dancing, her dancing, she
Her
would
dancing.
say.
Yes,
I
she was a
remember.
dancer.
How old was she when she left England?
So let's see, I was born, she was 33 when she had me, 31 and a half Barbara. So she was at least 30 after the war. She met my father in Oxford, England. He was stationed there prior to storming the beaches at Normandy. He was a medic in World War II. And they met in Oxford.
At a dance, right?
At a dance. And he said to her, I'm better at talking than I am at dancing.
And your mom said it was true, huh?
And it was true.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But your mom thought he was a great conversationalist, right? Like she enjoyed
She
having
did. She was smitten. She was smitten.
So then she
they got
came-
married in Oxford during the war, after the Battle of the Bulge, I think it was, and he came back and got married before he had to go continue on with the war.
So he had to go back to the war after.
did.
Okay. And then when the war was over, is that when she came to?
Then he came, of
That's a
course,
lot of
home
faith.
first, and she had to. They both actually, interestingly enough, came on the Queen Mary.
Okay, just at separate times.
Separate times, yes.
So when he came, was the Queen Mary just taking soldiers home?
I don't know. Actually, if you want to do another podcast with my sister, she's
the one that's into the
more
history?
historically accurate. Yeah.
Gigi, will you please tell one Yvonne and Sandy story?
I just changed the names to Yvonne and Sandy for writing little stories for you when you were young.
I love
And-
those. I thought those stories were the best.
Well, I'll just paraphrase possibly. The school that we went to, well, initially the very first school was like a mile away, and we had to either walk there. It wasn't 4 miles in the blizzard. But, like
Thank
you
you for
always
being
hear.
honest. Thank
But
you
it
for
was
being
1
honest.
mile, but it was a joggy route. It wasn't straight on, and so we were little, 5 and 6, and we. But
How
then they
long
built
did it take you?
I have no
I
concept.
don't remember.
No. But then finally they built a school at the end of our block. Not we had a half block and then another full block. It was called Whittier Grade School. And we of course walked every day and walked home for lunch. And there was an obstacle. There were various obstacles, whether they were weather related or whatnot, through snow drifts and rain and all those kinds of things. But one of the obstacles was a nasty little boy that lived up the street that would block our path. And I won't say his last name, but his name was Brian. And so he would pick on Barbara and I. And my sister, although she was the one who was picking on me at home, she defended me out and
No,
about.
she could pick on you, but nobody else.
Nobody
can
else
pick on
could
you.
pick on me. She was my, guardian out there. And so Brian was picking on me and blocking my path, and because I had gone on ahead of Barbara to school. We were a year different in class, in age. And so he was picking on me, and Barbara was coming up from behind and noticed that he was blocking my path and being nasty. And she came up to him, threw him down on the ground, and was holding him down. And all I know was I came running home to tell my mother that Brian was beating up on Barbara. So then my mother came up. She had to pull Barbara off
of Brian. It was Barbara that was beating up
Other way
Brian.
around.
Yeah.
That's
I love
funny.
that story. I thought it was the best. I was like, yeah, Auntie Barbara's out there handling business.
Got him on the ground. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
We had a lot of fun.
I'm sure. What was it like then coming of age in the 60s? Like, I know it was a restless time in the United States. Do you have any, particular memories that, include current events of, what was going on at that time?
Well, wherever you are at any given time, you concentrate primarily on what your goals are, what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
So it was my schooling and then college and so forth. But these other things were going on, and you couldn't avoid them or ignore them without being, putting blinders on. So I was always one for the causes, for who's ever not being treated fairly. And so was your grandfather. So we participated in some of those marches and
Really?
things of that sort, and we were against the war
In Vietnam?
in Vietnam. Yeah, we were against any discrimination, and that had happened much earlier in my life, of noticing that.
What was the first time that you, what was your first experience or memory of racism?
Well, in grade school, there was a time when we had to do little debates, and I just always chose the side of who's ever being oppressed. And then, but that was early on. And then there was an actual conversation that my father had with a friend where there was discussion about race. And my father was talking about equality. And I chirped up and said something. And he went, shh. But the person he was talking to was very racist. And that struck me as just shocking, you know. So that, you know, it's gradual over time. And then integration in schools and news and media, of course, when things were shown on TV, riots and abuse and the Selma incident.
It's just so crazy to me that you have like, you remember that. Like,
all of that stuff was so horrible, you know, and it depends on, I suppose, who you are and how it affected you. But it was always very
Wasn't there a movie that
upsetting.
affected you a lot when you were younger that you watched?
Imitation of Life.
Remember me and you, didn't we watch that a couple of months ago?
What? It was so different watching it at this age than when I
As a
was
child?
11, I think, was when I watched with my friend Christine. And we'd go to the movie theater, which was about a mile away, most
How
Saturdays.
much was the movie?
25 cents.
I love it.
Popcorn
So
was
good.
10 cents.
Nice.
I didn't usually get popcorn. I'd get whatever was a nickel. And
Because 10 cents was too expensive.
Too much.
yeah, she got popcorn, and she would eat it one kernel at a time.
Oh, that's
Would you share it?
No.
That's
Very
disturbing.
sad. Very sad.
That's funny.
No. She always was a slow eater. But anyway, so I'd eat my Milk Duds or whatever it was instantly, or Jujubes or whatever the dots, you know, whatever you could get for a nickel.
And then those would be gone, and you just have to watch her eat her popcorn.
Watch her eat her
one piece at a
popcorn, or
time.
just be aware of her sitting next to me eating.
And I'm sure it smelled good too.
Oh, yeah. So
Were you all at all affected by the whole? I mean, I know you mentioned.
Wait, she never finished. Did she the movie?
Imitation of
Oh, my
Life
bad.
was pretty shocking. It was about a biracial young girl who denied, who wanted to,
she
who grew up
passed.
wanting to.
She tried to pass
could
as white?
She wanted to pass
Oh,
as
okay,
white,
okay.
and she was ashamed of her heritage and everything. And oh, Christine and I cried through that whole movie, and then all the way home.
all the way home.
Yeah,
You're emotional little girls.
yeah, yeah.
But it left an effect on you, you know? Like,
Oh, for
you still
sure.
remembered it. I was gonna ask. I know you mentioned being against the war in Vietnam. I was just curious if like the whole hippie movement had any other effect on you all.
Well, I was just anti-war in general, and still am, you know. And I understand that over history, you know, wars have occurred with a cause. But at that time, you know, all these young boys that I knew were going over and dying. And your grandfather, actually, at the time, they had what was called a lottery. And depending on your birth date, they had an actual drawing.
Are you serious?
I've seen it in
So
movies.
366 days in the year, technically, 365 plus the leap year date, for February 29th person were picked, and they fairly certainly guaranteed that if you were in the first 200, you were probably going to go.
Really?
And your grandfather got 359. So it was just a draw of the cards, you know.
That he didn't have to go.
Yeah, but we did lose friends, and a lot of people came back very changed, as they do now still, for these wars.
I was gonna say your dad probably suffered a lot from PTSD after World War II.
My dad,
huh?
for sure. Yeah, very rarely, but occasionally he would tell us stories.
This is interesting because my grandfather did get called to serve in Vietnam.
He did.
So he was like a unlucky one.
He was one of the
basically.
numbers, or even
He
before.
was-
It was a draft.
he was in the Navy.
lottery. He was.
I'm not sure exactly how it worked, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to choose or if they based it on skills or.
I need to ask him about it, but he did get honorably discharged at some point, and
I think you were only supposed to go for about a year, and then you could re-up, or depending on what was going on, you had to stay longer.
renew.
But we had a couple friends who they called re-upping. They would go back
Really?
because they felt so strongly.
You just got.
I mean, like once
attached
you're
to the
there
cause.
and then you have your friends there, like you feel like kind of
Right.
guilty, right? Like imagine if they died over there, and what if I had been there
Right.
to help save them? Yeah, I could
There's
see
that
that.
It's
whole-
a whole mind
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
To be like kind of tough.
Yeah. Women weren't drafted back then, or still, I don't think, right?
I don't know. I would think not.
I'm not drafted.
So, Gigi, your mom was Jewish.
Yes.
Was there anything about your upbringing that you felt was particularly Jewish?
We were so hodgepodge growing up.
Did you ever go to the synagogue?
Yes, we went to synagogue sometimes, and my father was Catholic. He didn't go, and my mother occasionally went to a local synagogue, but my father had given up on
Mass
church as a
and all
young
that.
person, on Catholicism as a young person, and they wanted us to have something.
Mm-hmm.
So there was next to the grade school up the street
There
was
was
a
a little
Lutheran
church.
church.
So you kind of
So the
visited
minister
around.
actually who was starting this church, Pastor Betcher, came to the door one day and he said, I'm looking for congregants, And my parents talked about it and they go, well, we want them to learn something.
So they sent
About
you and Auntie
God.
Barbara.
They need God, So off we went, these two little girls, to the Lutheran church,
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that wasn't, I didn't accept that.
Mm-hmm. Did your mom speak Yiddish?
Oh yes, she spoke Yiddish, and my grandmother spoke Yiddish
Did you learn any
a little bit.
here and there?
Yes.
Do you feel like you knew more when you were younger?
No, actually,
So your mom didn't speak it to you?
well, they spoke it, but in context, how you would, how anybody, even in a foreign language, says something, and based on context, you kind of have an idea of what they're saying.
Right.
And in Yiddish, it's pretty much usually something negative.
That's when they switched to Yiddish?
When it gets real, they're like, now we got to go back to the mother tongue.
So your dad was German. Did he speak German?
Yes, he would read us stories in German and tell us stories in German.
Really?
Yeah. His
So-
favorite song, one of them, his Christmas songs were Tannenbaum, so we knew that in German. All of it's gone now. Don't ask me to do any
But did you
Yiddish or
used to?
German. Yes. Taught us to.
Could your parents
Basic.
understand each other? Because I know Yiddish is kind of similar.
So, yeah, because my mother, we traveled a lot as children. And one of the places we went one time was Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And we took it was in the summer, though. We took a cable car up Mount, I think it was called Gustad. And we were the only people in the cable car. My sister was rocking the cable car the whole time.
Of course.
I'm just giving you a little. She's going to see this, so I don't want to be too harsh. And she was braver when she was younger.
She was scaring you. Huh?
She was, on the Ferris wheel, they were open back then. She'd rock the.
We just
The
rode a
seat-
Ferris wheel last night, but it
But
was not
that's all
open.
encaged,
Yeah.
enclosed, right? Well, the cable cars were enclosed too. So anyway, we took it up to the top of Mount Gustad, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. And there was a lady there who was managing the chalet,
Okay.
who spoke German. In Switzerland, it's Italian, French, and German parts.
Okay. Okay.
Of course, all the people there speak all those languages and English too, and
It's
we were
amazing.
made to feel very inferior. But my mother, speaking Yiddish, got to talking with this woman who spoke German, and they had such a good time up there.
That's amazing that the languages are so similar that you can just.
You can pretty much, understand. It's like, Spanish and Italian have a lot of crossovers.
Same thing kind of with German.
Yeah, they were funny.
Like, growing up, you've always used, like, random Yiddish words on us. Mm-hmm. Like mazel tov.
I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah. Tukis. Sit
Tukis.
down on your tukis, you would say. Or, I'm trying to think of another one.
Capitalize your head, sedate, it's like messed up.
You would just pull out random words.
Yes,
way.
Meshuggah,
It made me want to
crazy.
go back and learn more about it. Because the nice thing
Shayna
is...
Madel, beautiful girl.
I don't even remember that one.
Shayna May.
Shayna Madel.
Makes sense. That's like,
It's-
sounds like German.
Yeah,
That's-
it does.
yeah.
It does kind of sound like German. I just forgot what I was going to say.
or my grandmother used to say, Shayna made a la. She'd always add
Allah.
an
What's
ah
the
and
law?
yeah. Shayna
What does it
made a
mean?
la. So little, you know.
Oh, it's like adding ito in Spanish, kind of.
Right.
Making it cute. What was I going to say? Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I was just saying it was nice. It's nice because if the mother's Jewish, then the children are considered Jewish, right?
Yes,
So I
in
got
the
blessed
Jewish,
because it's your mom's Jewish, so you're Jewish.
And
so
you're
my
Jewish.
mom's Jewish, so I'm Jewish.
yeah. Although, you know, it does get a little diluted
Just a
as
little.
you go down, you know.
Yeah, I
But
don't-
your children will always be Jewish.
But I don't look nearly as Jewish as you do, I don't think.
I think I'm pretty much pinpointed.
I think you're very Jewish.
I,
Even your sister too she has a different look than you, but I feel like she also looks Jewish.
yes.
Like it's
Well,
pretty strong.
she's the fair curly-haired one, although I'm pretty frizzy now. It's very humid. But yes, I'm the dark one. We were on all the way back as far as we know. We had kind of the darker skin and the lighter.
And both children in one family, you're saying?
Yes, throughout.
What
yeah.
kind of Jews are we again? What's it called?
Ashkenazi.
Ashkenazi. I always forget that word.
I'm 50%. So, of course, my mother was 100%.
100. She must be 100%.
That's
Yes.
strong.
Yeah, that's
That
tough.
is strong.
Yeah, that is strong.
Most
I
people
mean-
are not
I know
100%
that.
of anything. Well, that's not true. Just most people I'm around, I guess.
My I mean, it must be strong because I feel like my mom looks Jewish, and now she's only a quarter max, you know.
Right.
But I feel like she's.
Do you know everywhere we went, as your mother was a child, wherever we were, they would think she was that. You
Really?
know, when we were in
she
Israel,
would
they
just
thought she
blend
was
in.
Israeli or Pakistani or Mexican or, you know, or
Mom's just
Italian
kinda-
or Jewish.
Yeah,
or,
mom's just kind of got that olive skin and dark hair.
Yeah,
And you don't
yeah.
quite know, huh?
Yeah.
I've had friends that told me before that they even thought my mom was like mixed black.
Uh-huh.
something.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like,
I
"Oh,
think
that's
your
funny."
mom thought so, too.
You know, you might be right. You might be right. That's funny.
she liked getting a lot of sun and getting as dark as she could.
She told us a story about the last solar eclipse she remembers when her and her friend were trying to get a tan. They were at campus. I don't remember where they're laying out, but they noticed all of a sudden it was getting like colder and darker.
yes,
and they were
yes.
like, "Where's the sun going?" Yeah. And then they went down to campus, like more of the central part, and everybody was down there with like the glasses, and they're like, "Oh, it's a solar eclipse!" Like they had no idea.
Now we make a real big thing
Now,
of it,
yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's all in the. Everybody's got a cell
Yeah.
phone, and it's there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes. And you had a really good experience this
We did.
this-
It went almost completely dark where
Yes,
we were.
totality, I think they called it.
Yeah.
You were in a total area.
It was amazing. It was amazing. How about you? It wasn't.
Well, supposedly we were gonna get 90-some%, and I didn't have any glasses, and you're not
Okay.
supposed to look at it, of course. So what I did was, at the time that it said, which was 2:06 p.m., I went out on the porch and I put my phone out towards the sun and clicked it.
Clicked some pictures.
Yeah. It looked, when I looked at the picture, it looked totally full sun, but then there was a reflection of the eclipse down in the little corner.
And you could see that it was
Yeah, but it
blocked
was
out
maybe
somewhat.
60% or something at that.
Not as total as they said it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is just kind of, and this is kind of a broad question. So if you find it hard to answer, I would understand. But I'm just wondering, like, who do you feel like informs your worldview? Like,
Personally, like as a person, or what as a thing?
just like how you look at the world, what you think is right and what you think is wrong, what you're passionate about, what you advocate for. Like, where did you get that? Was that from your parents, or
Well, it's a journey, of course,
right?
you know. And I was thinking about this because I knew we were going to be sitting here or somewhere doing this. And I'm not sure, of course. Well, my father was a very mild-mannered, deep thinker. And I'm sure, although he died when I was 12, I'm sure he had a huge effect. Music was one of the main things in my life.
Really?
It went on in the morning at 6:30 every morning. My mother, the radio went on every morning at 6:30. What was it? WTMJ.
That's crazy. I still remember the station.
Was it Waukee in Milwaukee or something? Born in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and it was on all day. Mostly, of course, old music. Well, music my parents liked, which was all the 30s and 40s.
Ballads
And 50s, yeah. Very little classical music, but there was all that, the band and the instrumentals too. But
You've always had a song
Very-
for everything. Like
I-
anything
I
you would
can-
say, you have a song for it.
and my mother, well, so yes, and we went to all these musicals, and then we would always buy the soundtracks, the record, and play them all the time.
I think that's must
they're
be
in
why I
here.
love musicals.
There
get
is
it
a
from you.
song for every single phrase or word out there.
So you feel like music really shaped you a lot.
Very
and-
much, yes, yes. And I think also I have to say that there was a time at which it was noticeable. I don't mean to talk race. I don't know if that.
No, we were
But-
actually interested in asking you about it.
There was a time at which the majority of the good music, which is still true, I think, was African American. Of course, we called it black. I still say black, and all the good groups and the individuals were mostly anyway. Ella Fitzgerald, and now I can't think of anything.
Sam Cooke,
Sam Cooke.
You were just
That
playing a
was
song
later.
before this by
Louis Armstrong,
Louis Armstrong. Yeah. Ella,
James
what's
Brown
the other
came
Ella?
later.
Who's
Ella Baker.
no? Oh, Anita Baker. You're thinking that was much later.
That's way later. That's not
way
what I was
later.
trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, so and then we would come home from school every day and watch. This was later. How old were we? But I was still in grade school, and watch at 4:00 every day American Bandstand.
What was that?
That was music of the day, and they would actually have teenagers on, and performers come and sing, and there would be a crowd there watching and then dancing. I think it was only
And you would watch that whole.
we would watch that, and then we'd get to actually see these performers that we had heard on the radio.
on the radio.
Yes, and then we started buying records. And they were 99 cents each, so we'd have to save up.
You really save 99 cents,
Save for
That's
a
a
couple
lot.
months.
It's a lot. If 10 cents is already too much to spend on the popcorn.
Well, so we found ways to make money.
Did you do little odd jobs around the neighborhood, or?
Well, we did that too, but no, mostly we would take our allowance. We got 10 cents a week most of the time. Finally, years later, we got a quarter. And then, of course, we started babysitting, and then it was 25 cents an hour and 50 cents an hour. But so you save up. I know this sounds like ancient, doesn't it?
It does.
I know, and I don't think I'm that old, but you were very happy.
Well, stuff moved fast, though.
It did.
Yeah,
It
like
ca-
progression was like.
it came on crazy fast, especially financial stuff.
You probably still feel like
Yeah, dizzy.
overwhelmed by all the.
A little dizzy.
I was gonna ask you. You mentioned about race. I hope you don't mind to talk about it a little bit.
Not at all.
Do you remember anything about the civil rights?
Oh, yes. Well, mostly visual things, but also by the time I was in high school, and then we were driving, and we'd start exploring a little bit and going. I remember I had graduated from high school, and me and your grandfather had driven down to. It was probably maybe freshman year in college, and we drove down to Southern Illinois, and we're shocked. Of course, we think Illinois is, if you had to say, liberal or conservative or biased or whatever, we think, we felt that that's not true of us. That's how it is there, but not we weren't
area.
experiencing it personally, right? Really, other than little things here and there. But as the further south we got, there were actually, we were shocked. There were signs, of whites only.
Really?
Fountains, drinking fountains,
In Illinois.
bathrooms. Yes, in Illinois. So that was a big
Wow.
shock.
I can't. That is, yeah. Seeing those signs is just wild.
Couldn't believe it. I still, to this day, can't believe any feelings like that. It's very hard.
Did anybody famous ever come to the area? Did you
Dr. King came, I know. But I don't know if you were
We didn't get to
around.
see that lots of times because I was then working full time. I only went to college 1 year, which was a 2-year program, but they consolidated
for
it, yes, in one. And then Grandpa was going many years after that for his course of study. So we had responsibilities, you know. So even though we might march in something during the day, you know, we'd have to head home and there'd be work and you know whatnot.
You were busy.
Yeah, so we were busy. So we didn't get to. I remember later on, it was still teens, probably late teens, that we were going to go get some barbecued ribs at a restaurant in a certain area of Chicago, and one of our friends who was black said, "You can't be going there.
Really?
Kids can't walk in there and order ribs." We go, "Well, like, why not?" You know, so young and dumb. You know, but there were boundaries as far as attitudes.
And do you feel like that racism is still an issue today that we deal with?
I do.
You do. Okay, so a lot of people have trouble with that because they feel like you are disrespecting what the people in the civil rights did. They erased that for us, and it's disrespect for you to say that there's still racism today. Like, what are you talking about? So what is a way that you could help those kinds of people?
Understand.
Well, denial's a big thing, you know, throughout. I can only really talk about my own life, but I mean, you can sense it when you're talking to anybody, and they don't even know.
We all have
ignorance is
implicit bias, right? Like
implicit bias that they don't, and so then they're insulted, you know, to be thought of that way. It's a big obstacle. It really is, I think, larger than we think. And the more denial, and things have changed, various things out there in the political world.
And there have been positive changes, right? Like, I'm glad that I don't have to ride in the back of the bus, you know, right? Like I'm glad I get,
better.
right? Like,
I haven't seen any of those signs that you saw,
like,
so
okay,
something's
something
changed.
is good, right? But to say the problem is completely gone,
So
I
slow.
think is...
We are so slow. Humans are just so slow.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
you know, women, how long was it before we got to vote?
Could vote, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very, very pokey.
Humanities.
What's some of the proof that you feel like that we're still dealing with racism?
I think some of the book banning now,
Okay.
things that in certain areas, they're banning books that want to basic stuff that I grew up with, that I thought of, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird, and I can't even think now because, you know, I am nervous. There's so many, but they've been banned in certain states because they make that an issue, and they don't want people to feel guilty. They don't want white people to be burdened with this. I think we should all know who was treated like what, when, and where.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Do you think that white people should feel guilty, or they should carry a burden
not
like that?
individually. You know, unless you carry that on, unless you carry on any feelings of inequality,
Prejudice.
from prejudice. But you have to acknowledge that this is where we were at this point in history for very many different, you know, American Indians, you know, Native Americans, and Jewish people and black people. And I'm sure, you know, there's prejudice. There's still way too much. There shouldn't be any prejudice. You know,
It would seem like by now.
you would think, you know.
We always get surprised. So I've never dealt with, well, I can't say that. I've dealt with it personally in mild ways, though. Like, I would call them more microaggressions, what I've dealt with.
You have.
But, like, we always get surprised when we go online. Remember that one video we were looking at?
Oh, I was so mad the other day. This young man, he's a Native American.
Indigenous man.
Yes, he's an indigenous. Oh my! He posted a video where he basically just was talking about the genocide that happened to Native Americans. How, okay, we're gonna celebrate Thanksgiving. Guess what Thanksgiving was a celebration for? All the comments on there, all negative. all negative. People,
Like, I think you'd be surprised, Gigi. The
people,
amount of
somebody
people.
literally, I got so upset and I can't help myself. I start commenting. I can't help it. People are like, don't respond to negativity. I can't help it. I'm on there like, and guess what else with my keyboard? But somebody said like, well, the Native Americans were killing each other anyways. The Europeans just did it better than they did it, and that's why everyone's mad at them.
Remember that one man that literally said,
I was like,
in case you didn't know, my people conquered your people, so get over it. You can go sit in a little corner of this land that we own now. Like, there's literally still
And I
people
was
that
like,
think like that. Like, a lot of them.
what is
A lot of
going
them.
on? He was like, you're just jealous because we did it better than you. I'm like, better?
Absolutely.
Why are we using the word better about genocide? Like,
We did genocide.
don't-
Better?
Like,
we
Better
did
in what
genocide
way?
like, better
Better?
for who? Better for what? I was just completely at a loss for like, and this young man who put himself out there, I'm like,
And
what is he
he's
thinking?
an indigenous.
Yes, he is indigenous.
So deep-seated anger is very, very hard to overcome, you know, and this is why I think if there's an excuse for any book banning, which there isn't, it's that you don't want to instill hatred that isn't recoverable, that you can't look back on and say that was then and this is what we do now.
Right.
This is how we treat each other. This is how we live together. This is how we think of each other and humanity. But sometimes some people, depending on who's teaching and how they're teaching,
Right.
can get lost
Lost.
in those thoughts
is-
and the hate and the anger. Anger is a
And
really,
it's just like they let it take over.
yeah. I mean, I'm very angry for them also.
Well, we're angry for us. Like, if they do it to them, that is us, right? Like, I mean, we're all part of the human family.
We
Like,
all have that part.
we're not gonna let somebody abuse our brother, right? Like,
You can't deny feeling really badly about
yeah.
what happened throughout the world, throughout history, in various places, and we certainly are not immune
Right.
to any of that bad treatment of people, and still.
I think that's important for people to understand. You're not immune to this. People think I'm from over here. I don't even hear about that. Like, no, you do.
And making generalities about
Right.
ethnicities and you know, there's probably some things that are almost joyfully different about all of us that we can acknowledge of
Absolutely.
things, you know, that we have tendencies or traits about, but not in a bad way.
Right.
That's
right.
exactly what I said to someone the other day. They told me, they said, I don't see color. I said, you better see my color. That's what makes us different, and that's what makes us good. That's what makes us wonderful.
I used to say that, though.
A lot of people did. That's
And the
like
reason
a
I said-
saying from the 60s.
The reason I said that is because later somebody would say, well, what color were they? And I'd go, I didn't notice.
I totally get the sentiment of it.
And
But, yeah.
but I feel badly now, in retrospect,
We always
that
learn.
I guess I should have, acknowledged
Right,
that.
acknowledge
you know.
diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. I had such a long conversation with someone about it recently.
Yeah, we were black is beautiful. We grew up with all that, and yes, white people that were racist certainly felt that way too. Yes, yes, but it's a shame that we had to tell everybody. Yeah,
Yeah. Like that it was even a thing.
Yeah. That's funny.
Like, black is beautiful. Like, obviously. Or even that. I feel like people took what Dr. King said about people not being judged by the color of their skin and ran with it to say, oh, I don't see color. And it wasn't that Dr. King wanted us to not see each other's
it
color.
was the denying of their racism.
Right, right.
Those people.
And they used it to jump over. And the thing is, once you stop seeing color, you essentially erase a whole group of people.
Right.
And in your mind, you try to homogenize. But in America, when we homogenize, our default culture is white. So in your mind, you've turned everyone white.
Very
with,
well
with
put.
that statement. And just the implications of that statement go on and on and on.
Even the fact that white is the absence of color. It's like, I don't see color. Well, what does that actually mean,
Right.
But I'm aware of color all the time. I go, oh, you are such a nice color, and I'm so
Or
peaked.
even the simple fact, this
you know,
is
you
blue,
say it,
this is purple. When
Yeah,
people say that,
you
I'm
know.
like, you are kidding me right now.
I look so much better when I have a little glow, you know.
Like, we're
all
not
the time.
blind. We do
I
not
mean,
have
can we
plain
talk
blindness.
about like which white person is actually white? It's like it doesn't. You don't see it.
You can't even say they are just so white, you know, but or they are just so black. It's okay.
Right.
It's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
We're God's
and we should
children.
The
appreciate
shades
it.
are beautiful.
The shades are beautiful.
Maybe
How can anybody not think that?
right.
I'm very intolerant of that.
You are.
I
you
am.
Are. And maybe this is kind of the same question I already asked, but just kind of as a final question, are there any particular ways that come to your mind that you feel like white supremacy is still affecting us today that we need to fight against?
Well, I think there's groups, you know, there are white supremacist groups that have increased in number.
Right.
And so therefore, we might not be aware of them on a day-to-day basis, but if they're getting together in groups like we're sitting here and just talking about love and unity, and they're talking about hate and destruction, I don't know, maybe we should be a little aware of that. I don't know what we can do. I mean, it's...
Well, awareness is a good place to start.
I feel guilty that my generation has been so unsuccessful in making things better in that regard. You know, in fact, instead, somewhat worse, I think.
Well, in a lot of ways, though, you paved the way for the next generation to build on. Like, everybody gives something.
I know, but again, it moves a little too
so
slowly
slowly.
for me.
So there are white supremacist groups that, you know, consider themselves white supremacists.
Oh, yeah.
And everything. But I also feel like we've all been kind of affected by it in some way. Would you agree with that? Like, not that we want to be white supremacists, but just that the ideologies of white supremacy have affected us.
Pervading
Everyone.
narrative.
Give me an example of what you're thinking.
Well, that's a really actually super good question. Peyton, help me please. But I feel like just the whole fact of white people being able to grow up and feel like, not intentionally, but just feel like that white is
privilege.
the default culture. And just growing up with white privilege. Not that they asked for white privilege. We were not saying that. But they have it. Whether they asked for it or not, whether they took advantage of it or not, it's there.
And I think they should acknowledge it.
Right, and I'm saying, I feel like most people don't think about that, acknowledging it. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's an effect of white supremacy.
That would be a big step if they could acknowledge that.
Right.
That they've had a leg up. You know, they've had a bit of a leg up. And I don't want them to feel guilty.
No.
Or whatever, but
Well, don't
do your part to make it equal.
Yeah.
You know, in everything. In everything.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Just that if you can just acknowledge the position you've been put in. I feel like, maybe I kind of said this already, but like white people don't have to think about it. Like they're just living their lives, you know? And it's good if they can stop and think and say.
I don't know what makes some people, I'm talking personally, think about that
See,
their
and
whole life.
That's kind of what I was asking. Like, why did you think about it?
My whole life, I just remember thinking about oppressed people or individuals. I do have a funny story, but I don't know if I should. Maybe we'll have to cut it. But one of my teachers, it was either second or third grade, did a kind of, I think, an unprofessional thing. But she had everybody write down on paper their favorite people in the class. You could write 2 people.
Really?
Yeah. And then she was going to announce like the winner.
Like who was the most favorite?
The favorite, the most popular. And I just thought, I remember thinking that's really not right. So I wrote the 2 least popular people on 2 pieces of paper to put into the basket or whatever. And then she announced later that it was, you know, who it was. And of course it wasn't those people.
2.
They were just, sad, forlorn, pitiful people that just, you know, but, you know, there's society and there's different paths and whatnot, and they were having a rough road, I think. And I
Your whole microphone fell out.
Did it?
To fix it.
But so that's what I wrote down. And I just remember that, of course, neither of their names were out there. But I mean, I remember thinking at the time.
At like 7 or 8 years old.
why?
You're like,
why?
I have to stand up for these people.
Why is anybody even asking this question about being popular, or when there's some of these children that are
Obviously not even.
right?
Well, Gigi, it's people like you that can make a difference. Like, if you can acknowledge it, and if you can take it on as your own personal responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like, not thinking of it as their problem, but thinking of it as our problem, and what can we do to help stand up for the oppressed people, or for the people that, you know, don't have the advantage. What can we do to say something about it, to make a difference? And
In everything you do, every day, all the time. And I mean, I really feel that I haven't made any noticeable change in anything. But I mean, maybe if we all felt that way.
well,
every
and
day,
think
all
about
the
it.
time.
You raised your children to think that way.
Yes.
So mom thinks that way now. Uncle Alex thinks that way.
Yeah.
And now you have grandchildren that are also thinking that way. So
But you would have probably, you didn't need me.
no, yes we did. Yes we did. You made a big difference, and we're so thankful for you.
I wish I had done more, you know. And I still keep thinking, what can I still do? You know, now that I'm achy and
And
oldish.
75.
Yeah.
You've done a lot. You've been all over the
But
world.
I'm still alive at 75.
Maybe we'll have the girls put a picture of your map with the push pins in it. You've been everywhere.
Yeah, well,
She's
I
a
still
world
see some
traveler.
blank. I'd see a lot of blank places.
Do you have anything on your bucket list? Any particular countries?
Oh, well, I've never been to Canada.
Really?
Canada.
It's right there.
Across the street. Never been to Canada. I need to go. And I oftentimes look at where I could maybe drive to today, you know, if I felt like, if I got up early
All of a
enough.
sudden got in a
Yeah,
car
so
and
I can
drove.
go put a peg in Canada, Winnipeg.
A peg in
Way too
Winnipeg.
far. Yeah. Want to put a peg in Canada, or and there, yeah, I was supposed to go to another country or two, but then COVID hit, and I've never been to the Scandinavian countries other than stopover. You know, when you're flying from one place
to
to
the
the
other.
next, and you're stuck in the airport, you can't get you don't get a peg for that.
No peg for that.
No.
For the airport stopovers.
I put a peg in Newfoundland because one time, many years ago, we, for some reason or another, stopped in Newfoundland to refuel, and we actually got to get off the
Well,
plane.
that's technically Canada.
Well, I know, but I didn't get to leave the airport.
Okay.
But I did put a peg in there, and I feel guilty about that.
So now you gotta go to
I
Canada
gotta
so
go
it can
to-
be legitimate.
I got it, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have to take you. That would be fun.
I'll go. Anywhere,
that's-
anytime is my motto.
Really? That's part of how you've probably gotten around so much.
Anywhere, anytime.
Gigi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
know you were so
Letting
nervous
me
about it.
talk.
You could have talked more.
No, I was
We
waiting
loved
for you to
having
stop me.
No,
you know,
we loved having you.
waiting for you to say, okay.
Hopefully you got less nervous.
Yeah, did it feel
I did
better
interrupt
as you
a
went
few
around?
times. No.
It did not feel better as you went along?
Well, I did kind of tried to ignore.
The cameras? I'm sorry, Gigi. We're glad to
Putting
have
her
you.
through it.
I think, yeah. I feel like people like you of your generation are exactly what our whole world needs. People that are not letting themselves settle in and just be like, well, I don't understand it, so I'm not going to try. But that are still trying to understand, trying to be up to date, trying to still make a difference, making sure their children know, their grandchildren know, people are aware. And you're taking every opportunity. I mean, you know, you work from home, you know, you do your sewing and things, but every chance you get, you're saying something, and I feel like just that makes a difference. If all the people that were 75 and up
Speak up.
were
Somebody
just speaking up, what a difference that would make
up.
for the younger people,
Denial's
for
a
them.
really bad thing.
For sure.
Denial's a terrible thing. Yeah, speak up.
Well, we appreciate you so much.
Say something. Do something, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We love
Thank
having
you for making it as comfortable as you did.
And Peyton, thank you, too, for
Oh, both of
having
my girls.
Gigi
right here.
Both of my girls. And I've got a bunch of other girls around here, too. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I love you.
Well, thank you all for watching this. Take care. Give Gigi some love in the comments, please. Y'all know what time it is. Peace, love, and hair grease.